Very good morning, friends. I hope you are all doing safe and healthy. Well, as a part of the Did You Know series, I have been talking on Index 110, which deals with consolidated financial statements. As we are all aware that there are certain exemptions available under Index 110 where a parent company is not required to consolidate its subsidiary. Well, I'm not going to discuss that particular exemption today, but I want to look at some more facets of that exemption. We all know that para number 4, clause A gives us certain parameters which, if fulfilled, would give an exemption to a parent company from consolidating a subsidiary. We will discuss those parameters as well, but I think I want to show you some more interesting facets of that particular exemption. Let's find this out in detail. जो बच्चे इंटर और सीए फाइनल की अपने तैयारी पे लगे हैं और प्लान कर रहे हैं अनअकैडमी पर अपनी सब्सक्रिप्शन लेने के लिए, तो जल्द कीजिए क्योंकि इंटरमीडिएट के लिए, फाइनल ग्रुप 1 के लिए और ग्रुप 2 के लिए प्राइस हाइक आने वाली है जल्द। तो इंतज़ार मत कीजिए और इंटरमीडिएट की तैयारी कर रहे हो या ग्रुप 1 की या ग्रुप 2 की, तो आप अपनी सब्सक्रिप्शन प्लान कीजिए क्योंकि लिमिटेड पीरियड बम्पर ऑफर चल रही हैं और प्राइस हाइक जल्दी आने वाला है। तो इसमें अपने आप को बचाने के लिए फटाफट से सब्सक्रिप्शन लीजिए और साथ में मेरा कोड इस्तेमाल कीजिए CAKB10, आपको 10% डिस्काउंट भी मिलेगा। तो किस बात का इंतजार है, आइए लेट्स क्रैक इट। लुक एट दिस एग्जांपल where you can see on the top of the structure there is company A and it has got a subsidiary B where it has got 100% stake, and it has got another subsidiary C where it has got a 60% stake. The company C is also having a wholly owned subsidiary, that is company X. Now one thing is very clear, when you're looking at an exemption under para number 4 clause A of Index 110, there has to be a chain holding. Now, when I say there is to be a chain holding, as you can see that there is a chain as far as the company A, then C, and then X is concerned. Now, when you're looking at the exemption in terms of consolidation, we are not looking at the exemption to the top company, which is A. We are looking at the exemption to the middle company, which is C. So remember, one of the very interesting facets in terms of the exemption under para number 4 clause A is that you look at a situation which is a chain holding, that's one, and you look at an exemption if certain parameters are met, then the middle company, company C in my example, gets an exemption. Now we know what are the 4 parameters which are required to be met is that first of all, C should either be a wholly owned subsidiary of A, or if it is a partly owned subsidiary of A, then you need to inform the other stakeholders of the company. So in this particular case, you can say 40% stakeholders of company C need to be informed and they should have no objection in terms of company C not consolidating. The second is that company C is not listed. The number 3 condition is that C is not in the process of getting listed. And the 4th condition is that the top company, in my example company A, is preparing its financial statements as per Ind AS and it is presenting a consolidated financial statements as per Ind AS 110. Now, assuming in this particular case that let's say C is not a listed company, C is not in the process of getting listed, and let's say A is presenting consolidated financial statements by virtue of Ind AS 110. So I think the only condition which we need to meet is that in this particular case C needs to get a NOC. I'm putting it as NOC for convenience, a no objection certificate in terms of that 40% stakeholder. I think we all know this. And I want to show you something more interesting in this case. First of all, in this particular case, let's imagine that if the 40% shares of C is, let's say, held by company B. So let's assume that company B in the given example has got 40% stake of company C. Do we need to get an NOC from company B? The answer would be no. The reason is that company A directly has a 60% stake in company C, and then it will have an indirect share through company B, that is its subsidiary, another 40%. That would make company C practically a wholly owned subsidiary of A. So we can say that the interpretation of one of the condition is that when you're looking at an NOC, the NOC would be required only if that percentage is held by outsider. So in this particular case, if that 40% stake is held by outsiders, then you need an NOC. If that 40% is held by company B, which is a part of the group company, then we don't need an NOC. That is one interesting facet. Another interesting thing is that, let's say on the top of the chain, it's not company A. Let's say there is an individual which is Mr. A. Would company C be able to get an exemption under Ind AS 110? Well, the answer in that particular case is no, because the company, which wants to avail the exemption under this standard needs to be a wholly owned subsidiary of an entity. So if it is an individual which is not an entity, he doesn't get an exemption. Another interesting facet of this is that, is this exemption something which is a matter of choice to the company C, or is it something which is mandatory in nature? Well, I would say it is mandatory in nature. There are certain exemptions, where you get a choice, like in terms of Ind AS 28, when you apply the concept to para number 18, you get an exemption, though it is supposed to be something which is optional in nature. We're going to talk of that later. So today we have learned something very interesting about this para number 4 clause A, that there has to be a chain holding. There has to be on the top of the chain, there has to be an entity, not an individual, and the NOC is required if the stake is held by outsiders. So isn't the three facets of this particular para number 4A interesting? That's all in this particular video. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.